Risk-on sentiment has led to Bitcoin not only spiking to about 35,000 US dollar levels, but holding on to that mark also. And the good mood has spread to small tokens as well, prompting one research house to call it the mini altcoin season. Bring in Gregor Magadini of Amber Data on what's next for cryptocurrencies. Greg, welcome to the show. Bitcoin rose over 28% in October, hitting levels that we haven't seen since August of 2022. Now, 2023 has been filled with so many events. We've had the war, we've had banking crises, inflation, etc. How do you think Bitcoin's withstood the test of time this year?
I think there's a lot of things going on in the world, such as the debt supercycle and the fiat system, and essentially geopolitical risks, which are essentially big inflationary events where governments have to spend more money on military expenses when governments don't have money. So central banks will probably finance governments to do that. That's a really interesting bullish backdrop for Bitcoin. The way that Bitcoin is moving in 2023, it's starting to move as a safe haven asset. So in the first quarter, we saw Bitcoin and ETH essentially move in lockstep together. And then when the SVB banking crisis happened, although the initial response was risk assets off, and that included crypto, Bitcoin quickly rallied in response and then had a premium over Ethereum that it essentially held throughout the year. And then we saw that premium actually get more extended during the Middle Eastern crisis. We saw gold rally on the back of the Israel-Palestine-Gaza conflict, and then we saw Bitcoin rally on the back of that. So in the macro sense, I actually think the landscape is still really bullish for Bitcoin. But what's even more bullish is sort of the industry-specific stuff, which is going to be the spot Bitcoin ETF.
And talking about ETFs, Bitcoin spot ETFs have been at the center of crypto developments these past few months. Do you expect to see positive spot ETF news coming up in the next few weeks?
The way that people are positioned is that they're positioned for a positive expected outcome in the ETF. But the way that I like to think about it is that Bitcoin is, unlike ETH, is clearly a commodity. And so it's actually out of the SEC jurisdiction. And so an ETF is within the SEC jurisdiction. So if the SEC actually approves the ETF, it actually gives them some sort of lever of regulatory power within a lot of AUM in the Bitcoin space or the Bitcoin holding space through the ETF. So I kind of see the incentives for the SEC to approve the Bitcoin ETF in order to have some sort of jurisdiction hold on it. If we get the spot ETF, we go from 35 to 40. I think that makes a lot of sense. I think a longer term target is the 50K, which is that $1 trillion mark.
And Bitcoin call options are being bought between 40 to 42,000 US dollar level for December. Based on that, where do you think Bitcoin will close this year?
When I look at the options market, the way that the options market is priced right now, there's a lot of implied volatility being priced in the options market for November and December and throughout the curve, January, March, so on and so forth. So right now, November implied volatility is about 45%, which implies about one standard deviation daily move of about $800 in Bitcoin. And even though we're consolidating right now, traders are still paying that premium because they expect some sort of continuation move on the back of some ETF news. And the way that the option market is being priced is that they expect the ETF news to come out earlier than expected, and they're expecting something to happen in November. So I could see 40K November price tag make a lot of sense by the end of the month.